Welcome back to week 2 of our Covenant and Kingdom series. It's great to have you back with us again today. Last week we looked at covenant through the story of Abraham and the covenant that he made with God. This week we're going to be turning our attention to that second strand of DNA, that second component of our series, kingdom. And we'll be looking at that this week primarily through the lens of the story of Joseph. Jacob was a preoccupied parent, and like most preoccupied parents, spoiled his children. However, Jacob chose one son above all. He had 12 sons, but he chose his youngest son, Joseph, to spoil. He signified this by giving him a very ornamented coat. If many of us have seen Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, that's what we're talking about this week. He gave him an ornamental coat that had the tribal colors of his family tribe on it, and it was a coat that signified that he was the supervisor. He was not destined for manual labor, because you would not work in the fields with a coat of such quality. So his brothers then were to work in the field, and Joseph was set to supervise. And for any of us who have siblings, you can imagine the tension that this put on the relationship between Joseph and his brothers. He, of course, loved to be in charge, but his brothers were not so comfortable with the idea. Imagine they felt belittled, they felt put down, they didn't feel valued by their father. And so into this tense situation already, Joseph begins to get dreams. Joseph gets a dream first that he shares with his brothers about sheaves of wheat. He sees one sheaf of wheat and 11 other sheaves of wheat around it. The one representing in the middle that's higher, Joseph, and then all the sheaves of wheat around it representing his brothers. And all those sheaves of wheat are bowing down to Joseph, who is at the center. Now Joseph's brothers are no dummies. They can read between the lines, and they ask their younger brother, "Do you mean to rule over us?" They couldn't imagine that he was sharing this dream with him. So already you see this sense in the brothers that something is not right in this relationship. They are not about to be ruled over by their brother. And so then Joseph, being completely unaware now of the dynamic going on around him, shares another dream that he is given. This time it's a dream about him at the center and 11 stars in the sky bowing down to him. So now Joseph is saying essentially that he's not only to rule over his brothers, but he is going to be the center of the universe. Joseph is at the center of his universe. He's at the center of his own life, and he means to rule over those around him. Well, one day Joseph is off with his father, discussing how to supervise his brothers far away from the manual labor that his brothers are doing. And as the brothers are together, they begin to talk. And they begin to concoct a plan whereby they will get rid of this unruly and really troubled brother of theirs. And so one suggests that they would just kill him outright. But they say, no, we can't do this. So they know that their Uncle Ishmael's brothers or sons will be coming by shortly. And we know from the Bible that the sons of Ishmael and the sons of Jacob have always feuded. For Ishmael was not given the preferred status as Jacob had been given from Abraham. Abraham had a slave woman, Hagar, who had Ishmael, who had a line of descendants. And they were not then chosen to be God's people. And so the Ishmaelites were really looking to get back at Jacob. They would have loved the opportunity. So Joseph's brothers, knowing this, give them that very opportunity. They throw him in a well, they injure him badly, and they tell the Ishmaelites where to pick him up. They come, they dig him out of the well, and they transport him off into slavery. Then they concoct a whole other story for their father Jacob, where they put blood onto a coat and say that Joseph has been killed, and Jacob is completely out of sorts over this. So over time, Joseph is taken up to Egypt. And it's interesting, we read in Scripture that even while Joseph is in slavery, he is a servant in a household. The Bible tells us that even there, God prospers him. Even when he is there in that place of exile outside of his land, condemned by his family, we can only imagine how challenging this would have been for Joseph. Even in that place, it says in Scripture that God prospers him. Because you see, our covenant relationship is not tied to a place or a time or people. It's only tied to God. And God is, of course, beyond all those things. So even in this place of exile and despair, God prospers Joseph.